Welcome to Black Girl Brilliance, stories of success and resilience. Are you ready to unleash your potential and ignite your passion? This is the podcast where we dive deep into the incredible journeys of Black girls and women who have risen above challenges, broken barriers, and thrived against all odds. I'm your host, Nicole Beverly, mentor, social impact leader, and founder of iFlourish. I'm here to guide you through the inspiring narratives of some of the most phenomenal Black women out there.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Black Girl Brilliance, Stories of Success and Resilience. My name is Oluwakemi Asunramu. I am 19 years old, and I'm also an aspiring film producer and want to be in business marketing. I know Nicole because she has been a mentor to me throughout the exploration of my career and just figuring out how I want to help the community out. And usually she will be our interviewer, but today she's going to be our interviewee. So let's give her a hand. Ooh, I am on the other side of the mic, I guess, or the other side of things today. Thank you for agreeing to be the interviewer. Of course. My name is Nicole Beverly. I am the founder and executive director of iFlourish, Inc., which is a program that supports and empowers Black girls to be resilient, as well as to break barriers to achieve their personal and academic goals. We also want our girls to be resilient leaders in their community, outside of their community. So I'm definitely glad to sit with you today. I always say Kemi's like the younger version of me, but better. So it's great it's great for us to sit down and have a conversation. Right. And it's great also to have somebody to look up to. And being the founder of iFlourish, she's also helped to rope me in as a member of the advisory council. Yeah, so there's big themes in the working. I'm excited. Please look forward to it. Yes, I'm super excited for it. I am. But it's all in your hands. I'm not asking any questions. You will be asking me questions, which I'm like, oh God, I'm nervous, but we're here. Come on now. All right, let's get started. So I guess the first thing our viewers need to know is, who is Nicole Beverly? It's a good question. So outside of being the executive director of iFlourish, I am a program manager with a Black institution. I love to create programs for Black girls, for Black children, for Black students in our community. I also am a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. And I'm just a loving friend. I love to be around my friends, around my colleagues, having fun. I love to laugh. And I've always had a passion for empowering girls, specifically Black girls. I think we have so much power and we're not really able to tap in all the way. But when we work together, we're able to tap in all the way and be able to support each other. And as she mentioned, she is in charge of educational initiatives. And I am a result of one of those initiatives, which I loved. As one of the mentors in the youth residency program, Nicole kind of helped all of our members of the residency kind of figure out who they are, what they're capable of. And that's something that she has been able to show in anything that she pursues in iFlourish. No matter what she does, she's always out here inspiring somebody. And I guess we need to figure out how it got to this point, because, this doesn't happen overnight. No. It does. It does not. I'm not going to tell my age, but it definitely doesn't. It does not. So let's talk about your childhood. Okay. I mean, I feel like childhood is the foundation for a lot of who people become. So what were some integral parts of your childhood that kind of led you to the point that you are at today? Yeah, so I think for me, it probably was my second grade teacher, Miss McLeod. She was my first Black teacher. I was at a charter school, and how she poured into me, I felt I've never experienced that other than like my mom pouring into me, right? And I feel like sometimes with your parents, it's all like they have to do it, but with people outside of your family, they don't have to do that. And so seeing how she poured into me, spoke life into me, and really nurtured me in the classroom, I realized I want to do that for others. And I think that's another major part of the reason why I became an educator for 9 years. Because I wanted to support and impact children like the way that she did. And so I think as time went by, I realized there was Miss McLeod's in different aspects of my life, right? And so not only my teacher, but maybe somebody in my church that looked after me, or moments where I, needed encouragement. My mom did that, which my mom is like amazing. She's one of my biggest mentors. But also other women that our Black women did that for me. And so I think that's kind of where it started.
And I think that's something that all of us can relate to, having that moment of community that just kind of helped show us like what the world has to offer, especially as Black women. Like the best thing we can do for each other is support each other. So
absolutely. I think when I say there's so much power in support and like the community and then just having conversation and relatable conversations, I think is so important. I think that's another reason why even in the programs that we have at iFlourish, spilling the tea, that's part of the concept, right? Having them have conversations about what they go through, whether it's good, bad, indifferent, and how do we find solutions, or how do we reflect on how we reacted, or how we how things played out in that, and being able to learn from each other and express ourselves. I think sometimes we don't have the opportunity to express ourselves to do that. And then when we do it in the classroom, it doesn't look as good, right? It looks like we're even being defiant, or it's an issue, or people don't understand us. Yeah. And so why not be in a room full of girls that are just like you and be able to connect to and reflect from and learn from?
Mm-hmm. It's about bringing that fun and that energy to it rather than feeling like a task, something that you have to do.
Exactly.
And I guess I'll say, like, with education being such an important part of how you're able to do all of this, how has your education gone over the years in terms of like what you pursued maybe in high school or college that kind of helped establish what you're doing right there?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I went to undergrad. I went to North Carolina A&T State University. Aggie Pride. Okay. And I studied elementary and special education. And so from there, again, I had that vision of Miss McLeod, like, having the teacher that impacted me, that really supported me. And I wanted to do that for Black and brown children. And so from there, after graduation, I decided, even during that time, I knew I wanted to support Black and brown students and have some type of mentorship, because even in undergrad, I was in Girls Inc., I was in Big Brothers Big Sisters, Boys and Girls Club, all these mentorship opportunities. But every time I was in them, I leaned forward with like focusing on Black girls. And so for me, I'm like, I want to do this, but maybe I can do this in the classroom. And so for 9 years, I taught at a Title I school in Charlotte. Mm-hmm. And throughout that time, I kept on being drawn to like the young girls in my classroom and having conversations with them and being able to like, hey, I know that you're feeling this way, and I know that it's not deemed good in the classroom, but let's figure this out. Let's have a conversation, right? Like, what is the why behind it? And also, what exactly is the core of this situation? Mm-hmm. And so as this developed and constantly happening year after year after year, I was like, I could do this in a broader scale. Not only that, I also was a part of Freedom School Partners, which is also a nonprofit in Charlotte. And I remember it was a young girl named Akira where she needed that support too. And I was drawn to mentor her through that opportunity. But again, I wanted to do that on a broader scale. And so in 2018, I decided to get my master's in education entrepreneurship at University of Pennsylvania. And that was an opportunity where I could be able to build out the program. And so that's what I did. I used it as my capstone project, and I built the program out while teaching full time. And so it was cool to be able to like put things in motion, and then everything happened to like play out. But it was also cool to be at a school, an Ivy League school. It didn't even dawn on me until I got accepted. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm going to an Ivy League school as a Black woman. My mom is a single parent, and like I could not even think about this. I didn't even come to mind. All I thought about was the program that I wanted to get into and what I wanted to achieve, and then it just led me there.
Yep. And I think also, in addition to getting your degree, do you think that being able to pursue a higher education was kind of something that made you realize how important that was, and not only your life, but in the lives of younger people, and how that can be an asset to them?
Yeah, no, I think I did. I knew I wanted to get more in depth with how to create programs beyond the iFlourish, right? Just like, how can I, even as a job, how can I create programs that will benefit Black and brown children and be able to really empower them. That's my big, like, if somebody asked me what my purpose was today, it would be like to empower Black and brown students. And that was like, that was it for me. I think that would be an opportunity not only for myself, but for when I have children, like, you know, be able to show them that, hey, not only did I get my undergrad, but I got my master's degree and I was able to go above and beyond what I even expected for myself. Because if you would have told me that I was going to an Ivy League school younger, I'd be like, girl, bye.
Never would have thought.
Never would have thought. Not only that, but I taught full time and was going to school
Simultaneously.
Yeah, flying into Penn once every other month, taking classes for the weekend to accomplish this goal. But I had the vision. Vision was like, I want to empower girls. I want to create this program. I seen it on a small scale. How can I make it bigger?
Yep. And I think one thing that's undeniable is Black women have always had drive to do more for themselves and to do more for others. And I think that's something that you're definitely accomplishing. And I know that your focus has been on like young Black girls and children. Do you feel like there was a part of your childhood that kind of made you feel that this was the target? Like you didn't want, like you necessarily not doing high school students or maybe like younger focus. Do you feel like there's such a part of that like age that's very influential into like who they grow up to be?
Yeah. So I think for me, I think twofold, right? So first thing, when I was in like middle, like I would say middle, let's say middle and maybe and then maybe the first year of high school, that was a challenging year for me, a couple years for me. My parents were getting divorced and things like were happening with like custody with my parents. And it's hard because I'm juggling that, but also growing as a young woman. Yeah. And so like I've had like having my menstrual period, like, you know, me having my first crushes and all these things. I didn't know how to deal with that emotionally and mentally sometimes. And I mean, sometimes you want to tell your mother, tell your parents. Sometimes you're like, I don't know, like, you know, and maybe connecting with, like, I had an opportunity with connecting with my friends and talking about with my friends. But that was a challenging time period for me. And I think if I could go back and have more opportunity with like really confiding in mentors and in groups of girlfriends, I think that would be those years I would really need because of the time that I was going through. I mean, when you think about parents having a divorce, and my parents had it was a tough divorce, right? And it was something that I didn't expect, but in the same breath, like, you kind of felt like it was coming in a way. And so I knew that, but I also was the oldest. So like how you be the oldest, but then try to figure out your own emotional thing, but try to make sure your sister's good. And so that was tough for me. But I think that time period that was really important. And also, when you get into high school, it's like basically, not say you're an adult, but you're like almost there.
It's in your hands now.
Yeah. And so that's why I feel like with iFlourish, we wanted to focus more on the end of elementary, like 5th grade to middle school, and then gradually get to high school. But I feel like the meat of it would be middle school. And then even as an educator, I taught for 9 years. I saw the transition and the change with girls at the age when they were in 4th grade and 5th grade, and then them going into high school is like it's a different ballgame. And I think if you don't I remember mentoring a couple of girls, and that was in 4th grade. Like she didn't have the mentorship or the guidance at this age, you don't know what she was going to be when she gets into middle school. Because middle school, I'm not saying it's a free-for-all, but it's like,
it's such a big change.
It is. It's a big transition.
Can't be ready for it.
Exactly. And like you need support, because if you don't get that support, you can meet with the wrong people and take you to the wrong path. And then that deters you from, your own goals and who you truly are. And I think that's the major part too, is like not forgetting who you are and standing by who you are.
Exactly. And it's funny that you said that, because I had a friend who like experienced something very similar, and just seeing kind of like, I think a lot of people kind of discredit young people's emotions as something that's just what they're going through at the time. But I think mental health is such a big part in what we play and like in women's lives, but it's kind of been downgraded or kind of just been undermined as something that's not that big of a deal. So what is mental health one of your main focuses for iFlourish? And kind of like, how do you want to do that in such a way that it stays with them and something that they can look back on?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it's funny that you asked me this, because I know we had a discussion about this on our advisory council meeting in regards of like, as we revamp and refocus on our programming, what does that look like? And I think as society, we see society play out, mental health is a major key. And I think mental health also goes in line with like the confidence, self-esteem piece. And I know that's going to be a part of our core programming of what that looks like, of, looking at even social media, how that plays a part in your mental health and what to do when you can't get away from social media, but how do you handle the woes or the struggles of trying to align yourself with what people think you should be? And so, yeah, I think mental health and building confidence and self-esteem is going to be a piece of our programming. One of the pieces that we have in our current programming with Spill the Tea is the girls have the opportunity to reflect on situations and different moments that they come across as a Black girl. And so through that, they have the opportunity to journal and just even highlight who they are as a person. One of the things in Spilling the Tea, we have the girls have the opportunity to highlight somebody in their cohort based on what they see about themselves, or what maybe say like, hey, this person did a great job in this, in this endeavor, or it helped me in school, or I think they're just doing great as a whole person. Like, I want to highlight them. And so I think that's kind of a piece that we're doing too, with just building the confidence and also highlighting mental health and having conversations about mental health and what that looks like too.
And I think, like, growing up through middle school, I'm a recent high school graduate, so I feel like it's all still fresh to me. But going through those areas of our life, like, those kids go through so much that you would never even think of. And like being able to like just have your friends and friendships and relationships like that, you're able to have that little bit of support from other people, even if you didn't feel comfortable talking to somebody older or talking to your parents. So I think that one of the big parts of like iFlourish is that sisterhood and friendship, because I think that like Black sisterhood and Black friendship, it really goes deep. Like, it's not simply a relationship that you have, it's something that literally becomes a part of who you are.
Exactly. And I think to your point with the Spilling the Tea, that's kind of where, like, that's kind of the heart of it, right? It's like where they get nitty gritty down in the conversation and having discussions about like, what does that look like for me? What does that look like for you? And also being able to say, at the same time, you made a point where like sometimes you don't want to share, and with Spilling the Tea, they get to journal first and then be able to share how they feel in that comfortable space. But that space is cultivated, that space is cultivated for them, so they're able to build that space on their own, and they lead those conversations. The mentors are there, but we want them to make sure that they lead them and they feel comfortable in leading them and having conversations with each other to be able to reflect but learn from each other. There's so much power in when the same ages are learning from each other, but also feel safe enough to say, know what, I might have been wrong in that. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for giving me that advice, or thank you for making me see that perspective, because I didn't think about that at that time.
And I think that some people are, maybe not by their own accord, but they are limited in their perspective. So it's something as simple as a conversation that could help like flip that switch and kind of have you figure it out. And I will say, if anybody who's young is listening out there, do not knock journaling. Like, like even if your journaling is messy, even if it's out of anger, out of sadness, when you're able to understand yourself and understand who you are, it completely changes how you approach the rest of the world. And I think one thing that you mentioned that's really important is how iFlourish is supposed to become a safe space for women. I think our environment plays such a big role in, what we see and what we're inspired to do. And I just want to ask, have there been any safe spaces throughout your life that you think you were able to kind of just get away from the rest of the world? And a safe space doesn't necessarily always have to be a physical space. It could just be something that you create to kind of like just chill out and have that peace of mind.
Yeah, that's a great question. Because I have, and I feel like it's different. Sometimes too, it's also different seasons. And so I think for me, some of my safe spaces is my house. I think that's always going to be my safe space, right? Where I could just sit down, reflect, be myself with no makeup, no dressy clothes, no anything, and just chill out on the couch and just be me. That's a safe space for me. I say, it's crazy when I say this all the time, but one of my safe spaces is going to New York.
Really?
But
because you're from New York, right?
Yeah. And so when I'm able to go to New York and be like that little ant amongst all of the community, like, just like that little person in amongst all the big city, I feel like no one's caring about what I'm doing. I'm not caring about what anybody else is doing. I get to explore. Even though I've been there so many times, I get to explore and just be myself. I also think because that's also home for me.
Yeah.
Like I was, raised in Jersey, born in New York when I was going back and forth. And so going back to where I'm from is like, that was home. That's safe space for me. Another safe space for me is being around my friends. Like my friends, the way that I think it's so important for you to have great friends around you that inspire you. And so I have a couple of group of friends that inspire me where even like the girls that graduated from Penn, we are doing so many different things, but they continue to inspire me based on their path and how they're able to navigate and be resilient in who they are, whether it is like bumps in the road or things that they might have to change or even successes we share with each other. That's like, for me, safe spaces. I have girlfriends out here in Charlotte where we can like kiki, laugh, like have relatable conversations and just be ourselves and be like, girl, this single journey is a struggle, but we're here. Or like,
we're gonna get through it.
Right. Or it's like, I have like best friends that are married or are in relationships. I'm able to like have conversations with them and just they know me. I think my safe space is like my friends that know me, and also we can have those genuine conversations. Like Nicole, it's not Nicole that's a program manager, not Nicole that's executive director. It's Nicole.
Yep.
Like just being me, I'm able to have those conversations and just pour into me, I'm pouring right into you.
Yep.
And so those are my safe spaces.
And I feel like that sense of authenticity, I think no matter who you're around, at the end of the day, you're left with yourself. And if you're not authentic to yourself and who you are, then it kind of just feels like you're an actor in this world. And and this life is not long. So I think it's not. So I think that, just being yourself and having that like authenticity is something that like, you try to bring out in others or to have that safe space. And I think being a youth resident, I for a while I just felt like I was not a creative. Like I felt like I was very much a logical person. But I think being able to be surrounded by so many creatives and people who are different from me, I was able to learn. Those were able to like bring out parts inside myself I never would have seen. So I think like along with academic and career development, like iFlourish is trying to bring out the best in, our members and participants and stuff like that, because it can be hard. It can
especially like, I mean, it's hard enough as a woman, as a girl, right? And I think being a Black woman, a Black girl is even harder.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that I've realized even in my 30s. It's like, Nicole, it's okay to be yourself. Yeah. It's okay to like not be okay with this. It's okay to, express yourself in this way. Like it's okay. The people that care about you and love you are gonna stick with you regardless. And I think that's something that we want to continue to support and teach our girls in our iFlourish. Like, be yourself, achieve what you want to achieve. We'll support you through that, connect you with the right people with that. And then that's a major thing, even with Black Girl Brilliance, having girls to be able to see like, wait a minute, there's a Black professional woman that has done what I've been through, or had the same experiences or in the same environment, and they were able to achieve this. So if they're able to be themselves and achieve this, so why can I not?
And I think having a program like that and kind of like in our society nowadays is very important, because you need to be able to teach people what they're capable of, because sometimes the opportunities are not presented to us. Being in today's society, how do you want to kind of teach students who are a part of iFlourish how to navigate this world as a Black woman, and how for it to not be a limitation, but as a way to push them forward when they overcome it?
That's a good question. So I think with Black Girl Brilliance, even our program now, even this podcast, we want to create curriculum and videos where Black girls can hear directly from Black professional women how they were able to achieve their goals despite hurdles, circumstance, situations, and have real conversations with that. Like, this is me. This is how I was. I was able to navigate that. It wasn't an easy life for me, but because I was able to have a vision, and I knew either you knew what you wanted, or you would try to achieve what you wanted, you got to where you were. So like with our program with Black Girl Brilliance, that's what's another way. And then the other piece of it is having real life conversations beyond Black Girl Brilliance, and having, our live sessions where girls are able to ask questions and able to relate with not only with the mentors, but ask questions with the girls. Like, you know what? I want to do this too, but like I'm struggling in this area. How can you know what can I, what do you think I can do? And then they can be able to relate and have conversations in that too. But the major piece of it with having opportunity in that is our Black Girl Brilliance podcast and programming, where girls are able to hear from Black professional women that may or may not live in their city, and really be able to hear the authenticity of their story and how they were able to push beyond their circumstance because of their resilience. I think of like even Vice President Harris. She was the first black VP of our United States. And because so many Black girls and Black women saw her achieve that monumental goal, they were saying like, if she can do it, then I can do it too. And it might not have been a vice president. It could be a different role, but they saw that the work that she did and the authenticity, also just the story that she had, being raised by a single mother. And they're like, okay, well, if she did all those things, I can accomplish that as well. Or I can accomplish something else that might be big as well in my life.
And I think like representation is so important in all different fields, like even outside of your career, like because I remember like growing up as a dark-skinned Black woman, I experienced a lot of negativity just because of how I looked. And like seeing that representation in media, specifically Lupita Nyong'o, she gave a speech at Essence, like seeing how somebody as beautiful as her, somebody as successful as her has still gone through the same struggles that I have. And that gives you an inspiration to like love yourself and to, want to do more for yourself. And I think like as we go forward in this programming, that will be something that like anything that you put your mind to, you can accomplish it, no problem. And in the lines of that questioning, like if you're comfortable sharing, is there like maybe a moment throughout your career that has stood out to you that you've had an obstacle, maybe because of who you are as a person and what you look like and how you overcame that?
Yeah. So I think for me, I feel like I have two, like one in my career and one in my personal. I think there was a time that even with, my mom being such a great advocate about, confidence and about making sure you're confident in who you are, I think there was an age where I didn't feel that way, like when I was younger. And I think that's something that I struggled in. And I think it was because of I was one of the few Black people in my class. And so really trying to adjust what that looks like, right? And like how I should show up in my authentic self, right? And so that was a struggle for me that I had to push through. And I think my mom just being like, just repeating, like reminding me like, you're a beautiful Black woman. You can achieve this. You could do this. I think that really helped me. But I also think about girls that don't have that.
Yeah.
And I think that's another reason why iFlourish is here, is like, I want to support the girls that don't have that too. Because that's a major piece to have in your back pocket or in your community, in your village, in your tribe, to make sure that you are able to overcome sometimes those insecurities that you might have. And so that's one aspect or one situation. My other situation that I say this a lot, but I think as I got older, I feel like I could accomplish a lot, right? I'm like, great, have good grades, all these things. When I was applying to grad school, I wanted to get my MBA to create iFlourish and create, the nonprofit. And so I thought getting my MBA is the key. And so I applied for schools back to back to back to back. Denied.
Wow.
And I think for me, that crushed my confidence, because prior to this, I was like, oh, like I could accomplish everything. Everything I put my mind to, I was able to achieve it. And so when I was studying for hours, applying for schools, visiting schools, and every door closed, it crushed me. It crushed, like, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I'm not good enough, or maybe I'm not smart enough, or things like that. And so I remember I was able to go to a trip to Africa. Through a partnership that I had at my school that I was teaching, and I was able to get a scholarship to go to work with the school, and it was an all-girls school. And I remember being there in Africa and saying like, all right, this is the last school I'm applying to. I'm finding out if I get in or not. And at that time, I opened up my email and I was like, you basically got denied. And I was like, what in the world is happening? Like, what do I do now? And I remember like looking at like praying to God, like, God, what's good? Like, what you got going on here? Because you see me, I'm spending money, spending time, energy, and I'm just tired. And I remember like thinking like, or like, I don't know, this probably was God, was just like, if I allowed you to get this MBA, you would not stay focused on what your mission was. And that's working with girls and like programming. And I think you would have been more with like, you know, the corporate and the money part of it, but not really with the mission part of it and the programming part of it. And so I remember a week later coming back from Kenya, I happened to, cause I was like, what programs have education and business? And I'm just Googling. And I see education entrepreneurship at Penn. And I hand on the Bible. I did not know, I didn't realize it was an Ivy League school.
Really?
Hand on the Bible. I just saw education and entrepreneurship.
It's like, that's perfect for me.
Right, exactly. And so then I was able to apply, and they had a waiting list. And I was like, all right, if this is meant to be, it will happen, even with the waiting list. And I was able to get in that summer. And I think I'm just like so happy because if I would have just gave up, I would have not had the opportunity to create this program. I also wouldn't have had opportunity to meet. I have best friends that are like, to this day, are my best friends from Penn. And I would have never met them because I didn't apply. And so that's why I think about even in the program and iFlourish is like the resilience. Like we always have resilience within this, and we just have to continue to utilize that to get to where we need to get to and be able to overcome those barriers. Because I think some of those, the strength is within us. We just have to tap into it and be able to say, no, what, I can do this beyond the barrier or beyond the circumstance.
And I feel like it's very easy to give up. It's very easy to say, I'm done. This is not meant for me. But and it's really hard to keep going, but it's all the more worth it at the end of the day. And I think that like being able to be proud of yourself is something that's very important. I feel like a lot of people don't hear that nowadays from the people they want to. They don't hear I'm proud of you. They don't kind of hear that success, but like being able to find that within yourself. Do you feel like that built your confidence in a way?
You mean from the situation or in finding confidence within myself in general?
I guess from that situation, like knowing how hard you tried and kind of like those setbacks, but like that last push, like you were able to get yourself there and how that kind of built your confidence in your abilities.
Yeah, no, to be honest, I always like when I'm struggling with something and I feel like, cause even with iFlourish, I took 2 years off after being, working at a new job. I almost wanted to just say, all right, just give up. Like I could mentor with another program and just, but I kept on thinking of the time when I applied and I didn't get in, but the right door opened and it was the right timing.
Right.
And so when I think about that, I'm like, okay, Nicole, it might be hard at this time, but keep going because you've seen what the finish line looks like if you keep applying pressure.
Yep.
And also utilizing your resilience. And when doors close, you can go through another door. You can go through a window.
You go through that window, the back door, you find a way.
Exactly. You find a way. And so I'm so appreciative of even the women that are a part of our advisory council to support me in this mission, and I'm not alone in it, right? And so I think me reminding myself at those moments like where I overcame those barriers, I overcame like the heartache, the pain, because it's hard to hear say no all the time.
Yep.
And you know what you want and you could see it, but sometimes it gets foggy when there's all these no's and it's a struggle. And so I think I utilize those moments and I keep on pushing through in every situation that I have to make sure that I succeed in it. And I think too, is like, even with this, it's like, if it was just me, I'm making this for myself, I would have gave up a long time ago. But I'm doing it for my future daughters. I'm doing it for their friends. I'm doing it for I want to do this for the girls that didn't have somebody. And so that's why I keep on pushing. That's why I also keep on thinking about two things that I want to achieve to push through.
And I will say, I know you mentioned briefly that you think if you would have pursued that MBA, it would have taken you away from your actual mission. Do you feel like you're able to have that balance between your career and like pursuing your mission? Because I feel like a lot of Black women feel like they have to sacrifice their dreams in order to sustain the life that they want, or sacrifice, what they want to do beyond, like, I guess, for the bigger picture. So how?
Yeah, so I feel like that's always gonna be a struggle, right? So I feel like it's gonna be a balance. You have to learn balance, and I think as I get older, I'm learning more that balance is important. And so this technique, I'm like whoever's listening, Black women, Black girls, I think this is a gem. I'm gonna drop a gem. Hopefully it's a gem. But I'm learning to time out my day, right? And making sure that I make time for iFlourish, but making time for my job and making time for myself. If you are going, you're gonna have an empty cup, and how are you gonna be able to give out on an empty cup?
And you're gonna burn out.
Exactly. And so for me, I'm learning to, like, I was talking to my friend about this, and I was like, telling him, like, I need to highlight or like color coordinate my days. And so certain days will be focused on Flourish, some certain days will be focused on my job, strictly my job, or some days it would be like me just being myself and being Nicole. Yeah. I sometimes realize, even talking to my friends, like I'm such in business mode that I forget to snap out of it and be like, all right, I'm just having a regular conversation. This is not a business meeting. Yep. So like that's something that I'm really, I'm learning. I'm getting to do better, and I'm just really making sure that I make time for myself and making sure that, and something that you said, that like, that balance of, sometimes it's hard to balance that, but also feel like you're giving up your dream. I also had this epiphany where as I get older, it's okay to say no to things. And it's also okay to not achieve it at the time that you thought you were going to achieve it. I think we sometimes like get so much of it in our head to say, like I need to achieve this at 25, this at 30, this at 27, like all these things. And when you don't achieve it, you're like, what am I going to do? Like, it's over. Like, I'm such a failure. No. Who made that timeline? You did, right? And you can undo that timeline.
Yep. I think so many people struggle with that feeling of like inadequacy. Like no matter how much I do, it's kind of easy to undermine your own accomplishments because you're so worried about what's coming next. And like, how do you do that? Mm-hmm. And like, I think that's something I've always struggled with, like being able to find that balance between like, okay, you're doing well for yourself, but also give yourself a little break, and like kind of how to go around those obstacles. Like this year, I'm taking a gap year. That's how I've been able to have opportunities to meet with Nicole like this. But a gap year was never the original plan. Like it was not. I felt like a failure because I had to take a gap year, because I just always wanted to go to school straight after high school. That was just always my plan. And I've always been like a person who stuck to my word. But, setbacks happen in life. That's just natural. But I think when you are able to see the best outcome of those, instead of thinking of it as the worst possible thing to happen, you have to think of what's most realistic, what's completely unrealistic, and then like kind of like that in between, that normal. And because I took this gap year, I was able to be more involved with my community, become a part of iFlourish, and like I said, have conversations like this. So it's always making the best out of whatever situation you might be in.
I think too, also having, even when you don't feel like you can check yourself in that way, having an accountability partner. I've started to develop one with my friend. It's like reminding me like, okay, it's okay. You don't gotta do all that. Or like, hey, you need to get it together because we need to achieve this in this moment or whatever. But having accountability partners, where that could be your friend, your sister, your brother, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, in supporting you, navigating, also knowing you to say, hey, I know you over dramatic because you trying to be an overachiever and you don't need to do that right now.
It's like, I wish you saw in yourself what I see in you.
Yeah. And so I think that's another part of iFlourish, of like having that girl group or having the girl community where like we check each other in a loving way, and we are there and supportive in that space too.
Exactly. And will you say, this is one thing that I've kind of always wondered, because comparison is a very big thing, like especially when you see people your age doing successful things or something you dreamed of. It's very easy like compare yourself and to undermine your own accomplishments. What would you say to people who are kind of struggling with that idea of comparison?
That's a good question. It's funny though, because I remember, so I am taking a class or a program with Duke related to related to iFlourish, and there's so many nonprofit founders that are there, and they're different seasons of their other nonprofit, and I'm just like, hey, I'm just revamping, nonprofit iFlourish, And in that moment, I could compare. Like, that's easy to compare and be like, dang, I'm so behind or whatever. But I think about, like, I've heard this from either like a sermon or like people that I'm like listening to podcasts or whatever. And it's always key to stay, I'm Kelly Rowland to this, staying in your lane and like believing that everyone has their own light. And so making sure that you stay in your lane so your light can shine bright in that lane.
Yep.
If you're in another lane, focusing on somebody else's lane, you're going to be crashing and not focusing on what you need to achieve. And so for me, I have to remind myself, Nicole, you're in your own lane. There's something that they achieved that you didn't achieve or vice versa. And if you focus on comparing what they have got going on, you will never be able to achieve what you need to achieve to make sure that you get to your mission and you work with these girls and you support these girls. Or even in general, like, everyone's path is different. So you can't compare because it's like apples and oranges.
Literally. Like, unless somebody has grown up the exact same way that you did, gone through the exact same things, nobody has done that. Every experience is unique.
Exactly.
And I think when it also comes to comparison, it plays a big role in social media. Like, I think me and Nicole obviously grew up doing very different times of
Not sure my age though.
that although she looks very, very young, she is a very experienced, and she's lived through a lot of things that I might never have experienced before. And I think that has helped shape like our perspectives on things. And that's why I'm able to learn so much from you, because it's things that I have yet to do that like you're teaching me about. But like through social media, it can be an asset when it comes to developing, I guess, a personal brand for yourself or developing maybe a business that you have. But it's also proven to be like the bane of existence for a lot of young girls. So what would you say is important about finding that balance in utilizing social media, but not centralizing yourself around it?
So I know for me, like, and I'm not on TikTok, but I am on like Instagram and Facebook. Social media is a lot for me as a grown adult, right? Let alone like teenagers and young adults that watch our social media. So I sometimes, even currently right now, I'm fasting from social media. And so
Social media fast.
yeah. So for me, 'cause sometimes you get so boggled down with social media that you like then build a comparison, or like you get distracted, or it's just can be overwhelming, and also can be sometimes depressing because depending on what's going on. And so for me, I think it's important to have moments where you take time off of social media and really focus in on within what you're doing and what you have going on.
And I would say, like, what are some things that you like to do to kind of like remind yourself to have a break, or some things that you go for self-care, or like little things that maybe you don't necessarily have to spend a lot of money or go out of your way to do, but like little things you do in your day-to-day?
For me, that's literally sitting on my couch with a glass of wine and watching like Law and Order SVU, Chicago PD, or like one of my shows that I love. Cause I'm always on the go. Sitting down and chilling is my best thing. I will play some R&B, light a candle, put on my record player, and like that's vibe. I'm vibe. Or I even travel by myself different places so I could just get that moment to myself and just to recenter myself.
You have to remind yourself it's your world and you're the main character, right?
Yeah, and then just also being around my friends. Like, I think my friends fill me up a lot, and so being around them and laughing with them like really helps me too.
And I think friendships can be very complicated. I think as you go through different phases of life, friendships change a lot. And I think a lot of people struggle with kind of finding that boundary between like your friendships, but also being able to find your joy by yourself. And I think that's something I've definitely struggled with, like, especially when you're somebody who's very outgoing, very caring of others. It's sometimes hard to realize you need to put that same care and same love into yourself and not just others. I guess, what is a piece of advice you would give to people who are kind of struggling with finding that how to have a relationship with themselves?
I think taking time to be with yourself. I think sometimes people don't do it because it's hard to realize when they look in the mirror, they don't like what they see. And I think taking time and sitting, like, if you don't like what you see, change it.
Yep.
Figure it out. Figure out what you need to do, what you like need to change, or how you need to uplift yourself. Go to therapy. Therapy is key. I go to therapy. Therapy is key. And I think doing that, it will definitely help you. And really journaling, writing things down. Like, I have like even sticky notes on my mirror, like just reaffirming myself and just doing things like that to really recenter. But loving on yourself, because you don't want to be indulged with everybody else and don't really love yourself and have to get validation from others because you don't feel that in yourself.
Yeah. So as our time comes to a close, I guess this will be one of our last questions.
Okay.
As someone who has worked in education, who has worked in serving your community, how prepared do you feel to enter this new journey of founding your own organization? Because it's very easy to support other people, but when you're in charge of something that you've done for yourself, it's a whole new field. So
Child, Chile, it is. I think every day I'm learning, and I really want in this, like as we revamp iFlourish, I want to hear from the girls. I want to hear like what they need and how we need to create programming around them, as well as I don't want to be the smartest person in the room. So as we grow the advisory council, I want to learn and build ideas from our council and really get to be able to tap into their expertise and their experience as a team to navigate how to grow this nonprofit.
And then with your focus being on youth, how important do you feel youth are, since they are going to be our next generation of leaders, our next generations of people in these professional careers? How do you feel like your mission is, I guess, targeted towards youth, not only in Charlotte, but something that can spread a message to youth around the world?
I think it's very important. That's why I wanted to, as we revamped iFlourish, I wanted to create Black Girl Brilliance, because I wanted to have a video and audio of Black professional women sharing their story, their resilience, and their experiences, not only in Charlotte, but this can hit the community outside of Charlotte. It could hit the world. A girl in China, Africa, could watch a video or listen to the podcast and say, wait, hearing this woman, I want to learn about this career, or I know that I could achieve this career because I hear similarities of her background in my own background. And so I think that's the heart of Black Girl Brilliance.
Yep. And media is really important in spreading that joy to other people around the world. And I guess, like, as a little fun question, who would be like one of your dream interviewees for this podcast? Like, if no boundaries, like if there was anybody in the world, dead or alive.
That's a good one. To be honest, I think it would be between our forever First Lady, Michelle Obama, of course. I have like three. I like Michelle Obama, VP Harris, my soror, and then it would be Beyonce and Kelly.
Okay, Beyonce, you guys heard that. Beyonce, Kelly, President,
Please.
Well, Vice President Harris, Michelle
She will
Obama.
be our president one day.
One day. But you guys heard that. And I guess to leave our viewers with something that they can take with them, what is maybe an aspiration or words of wisdom that you would give out?
I think aspiration, or even an affirmation I would give would be stay true to yourself and never feel like you have to dim your light or change yourself for any person, any friend, anyone. And know that it's your timeline, not anybody else's timeline, and achieving things is your timeline, and your timeline can change. It's okay.
Preach.
Because that's something I tell myself all the time. Like, your timeline can change. It is okay. And I'm staying true to myself. And at this bigger age of 30-something, I'm learning that stay true to yourself. Like, it's okay to stay true to yourself and put yourself first.
Put yourself first. That's it, folks. Well, I guess right before we leave, do you want to just shout out iFlourish and where to find her?
Yes, please follow iFlourish Inc. on Instagram and Facebook. If you are interested in being a mentor, whether it's virtually or in person in Charlotte, North Carolina, please go to our website, iflourishinc.org. We would love to have you. We are going to be doing some live programming in 2025. So please, 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 if you want to share your professional or personal journey, or even be a mentor at Last Spilling the Tea programming, please sign up and register through our website.
Yep. Alrighty, this is another episode of Black Girl Brilliance, Stories of Success and Resilience. We hope you guys will join us back for our next edition.
Yes, you don't never know who's going to be next.
You never know, so stay tuned, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.